So about ehsInc, we've been in business for a while, since '97. So to sum us up in a nutshell, we specialize in environment, health, and safety consulting and training. So under the consulting umbrella, we do written program development, job hazard analyses, risk assessments. For whatever reason, people frown upon using the word inspection or audit. So we kind of use another word for that. We're calling it a risk assessment. We also do other things like temporary safety specialist placement. And then under the training umbrella, we do pretty much covering all four corners of the regulations. We get that compliance is a big integral part of any safety program, but we kind of want to think beyond compliance. So we're changing the way people think. It's more behavioral based. Again, we'll be out there for a mandated requirement. However, we want to kind of take the proactive approach. We found that that's a more effective way of building a healthier safety culture, and rather than check the box kind of company. And as you see there, we do have all the certifications except for veteran. We don't have a veteran owned business, but we have everything else. So if you have to have that kind of fulfillment, we can help you guys out with that. All right, moving on. So my name is Eric Garcia, as I told you earlier. I'm the Chief Branding Officer for ehsInc. So gosh, I changed things into different colors. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I like that slide tells you, I'm pretty much in charge of the website, social media platforms. I also author the blog site that we have, and webinars, and I'm having a heck of a time doing it. It's fun. The company I represent, ehsInc, is very progressive, very forward thinking, and the one thing I do enjoy about the firm that I work with is that the creativity plateau is completely open, and it doesn't limit my creativity. I love it. I love having the freedom. As long as I sustain and maintain the company brand, I'm in good hands there. So it's a great company to work for. And, we echo the sentiments of our owner's story. If you haven't heard it, she has a remarkable story about why she's in the business. It's on our homepage, ehsInc.org. It's a remarkable story, and we echo the same passion. And again, we're not the check the box kind of company. We truly care about your employees' safety. So there you go. Enough about that. I'll jump off my soapbox here. All right, folks. Like I said, we're not going to waste your time. If you have any fulfillment on CEUs or contact hours, we have them here. We're acknowledged and we are accredited through those agencies. Each agency has its respective algorithm. I think for the most part, it's like 10 contact hours equals 1 CEU. But again, it may vary depending on the association that you have your accreditation or certification through. All right, so for more information, you can go to that URL. It's ehsInc.org/CEU-contact-hours. All right, folks. And you're more than welcome to email me directly, just as an FYI. And I'll give you that email address shortly. Okay, the agenda. Very simple. It's literally 2 bullet points. Hence the reason why I don't think it's going the full hour, but I ramble, and I only have a presentation because it keeps me on course. I do have a tendency of going rogue, but I can literally do a 2-hour presentation with just 2 slides. Like I said, I'm just very engaging. But the first bullet point, as you can read, is on OSHA's top 10 most frequently cited. And here it is, just released last week. There you have it, fiscal year. For those of you who don't know fiscal year, it's October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. So yeah, it was just released last week at the National Safety Council. So you guys are getting some pretty preliminary stuff here, and you can go ahead and share that with your colleagues. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I did provide a PDF handout for you to download. I'm hoping that you got it, but it's kind of hard to catch when you first join in. If you missed it, no worries. I'll go ahead and include it in an email. But we are recording today's presentation, so if you do have any information you want to go back and play back or maybe share with colleagues, we're going to post this recording on our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe there, hit that bell notification. That way you get notified of any uploads, and that way you get them all there. Second bullet point, popular mobile safety apps. Again, this is based on our experience. We can't, in 1 hour time frame, we can't give you all the safety apps. There's tons of them, but here's the silver lining. We've predetermined and picked all the free mobile safety apps. Some are light, LITE versions. You know how that goes. But for the most part, they're really quite thorough, and we'll cover some of those safety apps. And I would love to hear from you. If you have any safety apps that you recommend that we share in today's presentation, please type it in. I would love to share that experience with everyone here. Moving on. Okay, so let's get down to it. OSHA's top 10 most cited. I'm going to give you guys some information on standards, applicable standards for each topic. For the most part, it's the same people or same topics every year. There has been quite a small change. I will disclose that in a quick sec. And also, we will be covering the violations, number of violations that OSHA has documented. All right. And by the way, the reason why OSHA does this and releases the top 10, because it's more of a focal point. There's tons of safety topics to kind of worry about, and each industry, each work site's different. It varies. But for the most part, these are the ones that you kind of want to learn about, because this is what OSHA tends to lean towards when they do a surprise audit or what have you. So here we go. Here it is, guys. This is released last week. Jot it down. Again, I will email a presentation over to you if you let me know. But this is the top 5, the same topics. Okay. This is where it changes, though. If you notice, number 10. For those of you who know this top 10, you're going to immediately see something new, and that is number 10. Number 10 is eye and face protection. That's never made the list, believe it or not. What's left the list? If you know it, type it in. It's electrical wiring. So, I mean, that's, I guess, the pros and cons, or the good news and bad news. Good news is electrical wiring left. Well, it has to be replaced by something. And eye and face protection, which I'm honestly, I'm baffled that it hasn't made the list. I've seen, if you Google safety fails, you're going to find a whole bunch of images of people not wearing the right PPE. But yeah, eye and face protection has made it. There is the applicable regulation to each respective topic. Okay. And for those of you that don't know how to read these regulations, these are all federal, by the way. And just look into, if your state, obviously if you're in California, we do follow Cal OSHA, but if you're in a state that has its own safety plan, look into that as well. But 29 CFR, Code of Federal Regulation. And then if it starts with the prefix of 1926, that means it's speaking to the construction industry. If you go down to number 2, it's hazard communication, or HAZCOM for short. It says 29 CFR 1910. For those of you that don't know it, 1910 speaks to the general industry. So that's just a little shortcut cheat for you guys to know, okay? I'm already getting questions in from the chat menu. Thank you so much. Is there an app for OSHA regulations? There is, but you won't find it for free. So what I would recommend, this is what I do, because here it is. If you guys want to do anything that's fun or something that's not fun, read regulations. It's not a fun task to do. But I found a shortcut. It took me 5 years to discover this. If you find the applicable regulation, let's just say you want to find some information on fall protection. I've already done the homework. It's right there, 1926.501. You type in it, Google it, you'll find the link there. Click into it. Do not read the entire regulation. Your eyes are going to go cross-eyed. Here's some advice. On your keyboard, Control F is your best friend. I'm telling you this right now. To maintain your sanity, a lot of this is legal jargon. Hit Control F. It's going to pop up and open up your integrated find menu in your web browser. Okay. Control F, type in the keywords. Let's just say you want to find some stuff that talks exclusively on fall or harnesses or what have you. Type in harness. Less is more. So if you type in harnesses, it's only going to search for words that say harnesses. So just type in harness. And it's going to highlight every single word in that entire regulation that talks about or is in relation to harness. There it is. There's your touchdown moment. I'm telling you, it took me 5 years to figure that out. In fact, I wish I could take credit for it, but one of my colleagues is like, "Hey, Eric, what are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Hey, why are you scrolling down the whole entire regulation?" Hit Control F. When I did that, I was sobbing. I'm not going to lie. I gave the guy a big giant hug. I'm like, dude, no way. I felt like a moron, but lesson learned. So Control F. It opens up your integrated web browser search menu. Type in the keyword. Remember, less is more. And you can find information. It'll slice your time in half. And all of us are busy safety professionals. You can appreciate that. But there it is, you guys. All those applicable regulations. Fall protection, always number one. I think it's been number one since OSHA's top 10 has been published. It's always a big one, guys. You can argue the fact that, hey, fall protection, why is fall protection training required its own? If you notice number 8, fall protection training requirements, that's its own number 8 on the list. Isn't that crazy? So number 1, fall protection is mostly talking about a lack of OSHA compliant guardrails. I'm giving you guys air quote when I say OSHA compliant, because I've seen some guardrails out there that just, wow. So if you guys know that it has to have a top, middle, and lower rail with obviously some measurements in between. But there is some regulations that talk about what needs to happen, okay? Toe boards as well. So that's another reason. And obviously PPE. If you're up there above 7 feet or 6 feet federally, OSHA, it's actually 7.5. You have to have fall protection donned, okay? You have to have a fall protection written program. So as you guys know, if it's not in writing, it's not going to exist. So you can have a heck of a safety program, you know, beautifully expressed, communicated, but if it's not in writing, that's where it all starts. That's the inception of everything, folks. If you have no safety program in writing, you simply don't have a safety program, period. So a lack of a fall protection written program is a prereq to anything, okay? Hazard communication, you can argue the fact that, hey, that can be improper labeling. I've seen some wicked stuff on site, guys. I've seen some wicked stuff. Okay, and I'll show you guys some examples coming up. Scaffold, again, you're talking about lack of ladders, lack of egress, lack of fall protection above 10 feet. You're talking about, I don't know, planks that are warped, that have almost exceeded its weight capacity. Scaffold is an amazing topic to talk about, because if you see any vertical builds or any construction site, you're going to see scaffold. You're going to see fall protection. Okay, you're going to see rough terrain forklifts, which is number 7. You're definitely going to see ladders. Okay, eye and face protection. So a lot of this is you know, construction related. Number 4, respiratory protection. That's a big one. There's an argument here in California that, oh, I'm wearing an N95, which is a dust mask. Well, yeah. Do I need to be respirator fit tested? Yes and no. So if you're wearing a dust mask and your employer makes it a mandate for you to wear it, then you have to be fit tested. But OSHA has stipulated there's a volunteer program. So if you feel like, okay, I need to wear it, but my employer doesn't make it a mandate or a requirement, then you don't need to be fit tested. So believe it or not, there's a whole process of being fit tested on a dust mask. But there you go. Respiratory protection could mean, again, written programs, a lack of fit testing. If you're wearing one, whether it's a half face or a full face or even a full SCBA, you have to be fit tested and you have to be trained on how to wear it. Okay, a lot of things can fall under that respiratory protection title. Lockout tagout is a huge one, guys. It's just a communication of locking out and tagging out your energized equipment, right? And more importantly, de-energizing your equipment. If you're going to work on it or provide any kind of maintenance on it, whether you're outsourcing it to a contractor or doing it in-house, you have to have an effective lockout tagout program. I'm going to show you guys a visual of what isn't an effective lockout tagout program. Okay, ladders, it's a big one. How many of you, by your virtual hand up, has ever stepped on the top rung? I mean, just be honest. We've all done it. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I guess, behavioral stuff. I'm going to talk about things that can contribute towards the lack of safety awareness or a lack of safety logic. It's not your fault. It isn't. But we've all fallen victim of, wow, I just did that, and I'm smarter than that, and it's happened. And I'm gonna dig into why it's happening. Forklifts, OSHA federally calls these or defines these as powered industrial trucks or pits. You may have heard the term forklift. That's what it means. And again, a lack of training. I've seen forklifts, no joke. I've done some risk assessments, and I've seen a company that has literally drilled a hole in one of the forks. So I told my contact, I said, "What's going on here? Why is there a hole?" I knew what the reason was. I just wanted to see what they said. Oh, well, we drilled a hole because we're using it to lift and rig something. And I said, and I know how to approach this, but I want them to volunteer this information. I said, you realize that, you know, you can't use your powered industrial truck for lifting as a crane. Only, and I'm telling you this, and I've never seen this, but only if the manufacturer has allowed it, and I've never seen it. Because what you're doing is, if you drill a hole in one of the forks, you're breaking the integrity of the lifting capacity. Now it can't lift as much as what the placard says. Got it? Because you've broken into the steel of that fork. So what they're doing is they're rigging onto that hole in that fork into whatever equipment that they're lifting. And that's a shortcut. And that's sometimes called a controlled risk, which I'll go into a little deeper. You can get away with it. And like I said, I'll talk about it in a little bit, but is it worth it? And also, are you in compliance? And the answer is no. Fall protection training requirements. Again, OSHA last year made this a debut. They're focusing on training requirements as its own topic. That is insane, folks. That means that if you're on top or working on an elevated surface, they found enough citations to give it its own respective topic. That's training requirements. Okay. Now here at ehsInc, we have different levels of training that falls under the fall protection topic. We have a fall protection awareness class, which is just safety awareness. So if you want to let your employees know just about fall protection, but they're not really involved in falls or preventing falls or what have you, that's a good topic to start off with. And then we have an 8-hour to 16-hour competent person. That's more geared towards people who are actually donning on fall protection equipment, or more designed for supervisors as well. So again, I'll talk more about how OSHA defines a competent person. Okay, and machine guarding, that's huge. You can argue the fact that lockout, tagout, and machine guarding should come hand in hand, right? So machine guarding is the proper safeguarding of open hazards, to whether it's a stationed circular saw or whether it's an abrasive wheel or what have you, a drill. All those little pinch points and the point of activity needs to be guarded. That way no one's putting their fingers in there. Okay. And like I said, number 10 is a new one, eye and face protection. That's huge. All right. Let's jump into the next one here. So now this slide's talking about the violations, folks. This is the number of violations from fiscal year October 1st, 2017, September 30th, 2018. This is just released last week. Number fall protection, this is federally, by the way, 7,270 violations applicable to fall protection. That's insane, right? And then it goes down, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but then it goes down to eye and face at 1,536. So yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so OSHA, like I said, if you're being inspected by an OSHA rep, I certainly don't represent OSHA, but I'm telling you right now, there isn't one OSHA official that knows everything about the regulations. They certainly have their niche. So what I mean by that is that they're more versed on certain topics, right? So this is I'm sure all OSHA officials know the top 10 very well. Okay, so just know that if you are a safety officer who's responsible for part of its responsibility of maintaining a healthy, safe workplace, know that this top 10 is probably, again, I don't represent OSHA, but probably on their scope. So this is somewhat of a cheat sheet for you to take a preemptive approach and say, okay, let me focus on these 10 first, and then I'll definitely, tighten up the process of what my environment speaks of and requires for a safe workplace. All right. Again, just as a reminder, folks, if you type in your questions, chat menu. Some of you are using the chat. The Q&A. Perfect. Type them in, and I'll go ahead and address them when I see fit. Okay. So let me digress here. So I have a couple images that I found. Okay. Some of them were taken on site. Some of them were literally found on Google Images. And I'm not bringing light on these images. I'm not. But I have to assume that these images are a result of working in haste. This is going back to my original point of we've all done stupid things. You're working in haste. Either you're fatigued. Let's just say you worked a crazy shift the day prior, right? Or you just had a rough night. Or let's just say you've become complacent. Everyone's fallen under that category. I'm not pointing fingers, but we've all somewhat fallen under the complacency, right? So a lot of things can contribute towards us not thinking clearly as how we should be, because we're a lot smarter than this. So if you're working in haste, that's number one rule: don't ever work in haste, because all safety logic, all common sense, I'm telling you right now, I've seen it, is thrown out the window. Because now what's happening is you're taking controlled risks or uncontrolled risks, shortcuts, and you're not thinking clearly, and you're trying to meet pressing deadlines. I mean, come on, what's more pressing than your life and your safety? I mean, let's just, call a spade a spade. That's what it is. So let's look at these images. I'm not bringing light. I'm not making it a light subject. I get this is scary situations. These are all legit photos. I question one. I think one might be photoshopped, and I'll tell you when it is. But here it is, guys. So number one, why does fall protection make the list? Well, there it is. Okay, that's why fall protection makes the list, and that's why OSHA representatives, OSHA officials, they hone on this. They hone in on this topic because a lot of people take shortcuts. Now, would you argue the fact that this is a controlled risk? I don't know. I mean, his colleagues literally holding his feet. I don't know. It's definitely a risk, right? So here's the remedy to this. How would you fix this? Well, you plan ahead. And again, I'll jump into that later. Here at ehsInc, we have an acronym. I'm going to have you guys write it down, but you plan ahead. And then you'll know, okay, how am I going to get to that letter? How am I going to get to that sign up there? I'm assuming this is about 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet up. Maybe rent an aerial lift, scissor lift. Maybe use an extension ladder. Okay. There's ways around it. I know everything. I know safety, the best practice in safety. I know it's contingent to a budget. I get it. But you can't put a price tag on someone's safety. It literally takes a split second to change your quality of life. All because you're trying to save the company money? All because you're trying to increase the profit margin? Really? I mean, seriously, at that point, who are you questioning? Right? So you have to think intelligently. So this is why I had to grab this photo. This is a Google image, by the way. I question its source. I don't think it's a US related. I don't think it's a US image just because of the lettering. But it still speaks universally, correct? All right, guys. HazCom. If you don't know what HazCom is, like I said earlier, it's the proper labeling of identified or potential hazardous chemicals. Okay. I laugh at this one because it's pretty funny. Now, if I'm in a lab and I see a Kirkland water bottle and someone wrote acid on it, okay, let's just say I'm working in haste, all right, and I'm running around, I'm thirsty, I see the Kirkland, I don't even look at the black lettering, I drink it. I'm dead. I'm dead. That split second, I'm dead. And who's responsible for that? When you do your accident investigation, what's the deep root analysis? What's the root cause analysis to this? You can argue the fact that, man, is it the employee's fault? I don't know. I mean, what if the employee has no safety awareness, has never been taught hazard communication? Would you argue the fact that there was no written program on hazard communication? What about upper management? Are they on board with safety? A lot of things come into play. But the caveat is someone's lost their life, right? That is ridiculous, and I would never accept that. The photo to your right reads broken butanethiol bottle. That's what you're smelling. Hell, if I'm reading this, it's too late. The fumes have already entered my body. And what's bad about the chemicals that enter your body is that some of them have chemical properties that have no acute reactions. You're going to find out you have a bad lung 10 years from now. That's the bad part about all this, is that some of this, you won't even realize you have it, hence the silica regulation that happened last year. That was a big push, right? It's now a big issue because people are coming out like, I have silica. Well, why didn't you report it? I never knew I had it. It took me 30 years to recognize it because it's not acute, it's chronic. So this has come, this is why OSHA is big on it. That is a horrible way to communicate to your employees that there perhaps has been a spill of a hazardous chemical, right? I'm passionate. Sorry, I don't mean to raise my voice, but you get the point. Like that's horrible. So the way you do it is you clean up the spill, you isolate the area, break it off from any kind of entry, and you send a memo. If you have to, don't enter the lab, guys. Don't ever. We have it closed, but don't enter it. Communication's key to safety. Got it? Question coming in is there OSHA does require a written program for hazard? Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does. The question was, does OSHA require a hazard communication written program? Yes, it does. because you have to identify all chemicals on your workplace, work site. You have to keep a library of your safety data sheets. If you guys don't know what that is, every hazardous chemical that comes into your workplace has to have a supported safety data sheets, a form 16 sections long that tells you the specifics on that hazard. And each person who's handling or dealing with those chemicals should read the SDS prior to even touching it. That way they know what to do in case of a spill. Other things that are in every written program is roles and responsibilities, things of that nature, training requirements, all that good stuff. But it's applicable to your environment. And each employee has to read it, not only read it, but comprehend it, not only comprehend it, but sign a document saying that they comprehend it. Legal counsel will appreciate that. So if you're going to develop a program, make sure your employees have read it and comprehended it. If your workforce is 80% Hispanic or Vietnamese, or whatever it is, that written program has to be written in a language that they understand. That's another gap that needs to be filled in the safety world, is that people are falling down from heights, and it's not a coincidence that most of these people are Hispanic. And what's happening is that these employers, I'm generalizing, but it's a proven stat that most Hispanics are victim of these injuries, is that they're given training but not in Spanish. And they're coming out more confused. But their John Hancock is on the roster, and that's all that really matters, right? Let's move on to the next image, guys. Scaffold, my goodness, what's wrong with this image, guys? I need your comments. Put on your OSHA cap. What is wrong with this question? Some people put ladders. Actually, this is the type of scaffold that you can use ladders for, but I'm gonna go with you on that though. The ladders don't look. I think they're angled in a certain way that looks unsafe. Yes, thank you, Alex. Guardrails. Where are the guardrails? My goodness, there's no guardrail. And what about the planks? Okay, what's the issue with this plank here? It's warped. If you ever see a plank that is warped, folks, it's not designed that way. Okay, that means if a tack or a nail fell on to that board, most likely will snap in half. So these boards, these planks are designed to withstand a total weight, not of the employer, the worker, but also the weight that the employee has on him. Okay, that is a warped board. That board is going to snap. Okay, there's a lot going on in this photo. And there's a common misconception that, oh, I'm working in residential, I don't apply. No, that's false. That's a complete fib. It applies to you. Trust me on that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so I'm gonna call this one a fake one. I want to say it's fake. But this is why respiratory protection makes the list, folks. Silica is huge. It was a huge campaign last year, still is now. This individual is using an abrasive saw cutting on concrete. That is all silica, potential silica. Okay, there's a PEL for that. But this individual, again, I can only assume if it's not fake, he's in haste. He needs to get the job done. He wasn't properly trained. He wasn't given respirators, so he improvised. He used, I see it's a plastic bucket. There's so much going on here. So much going on here. Lockout, tag out. If I'm in this room, I'm going to call this one fake as well. But if I'm in this room and I'm working on an energized panel, electric panel, this is what you're looking at here. And I put a little post-it on the on and off button that says don't start. Okay. I don't value my life, or I was never properly trained, because there's no deadline pressing enough to jeopardize my life. So what happens is this guy's saying, okay, don't start because either I'm working on it or what have you, whatever the scenario is painted. So the effective way of doing this is you de-energize the source, lock it with a tag and a lock. And only one person who is the authorized user for that lockout tagout program should have the sole key. That way there's no accidental re-energization of that electrical panel. I opened up my classes with the icebreaker. I asked the class, hey, what do you guys automatically or immediately associate with the word OSHA? Believe it or not, most of them say citations and violations. It's all negative. And this is where I kind of scan and it gives me a consensus of where I'm at and how to approach the class. And say, guys, at the end of the session, I'm going to make you guys think differently about OSHA. Because really, OSHA is there to protect you guys. They're not in a room and they're not saying, okay, guys, how are we going to screw up this industry tomorrow? They're actually studying case studies, and they're actually looking at analytics. They're actually looking at statistics, and they're looking at what's spiked, what's trend setting. And they're writing code, and they're involving industry leads throughout a whole process. You guys have seen it, the appeals, the review process. They're opening it up to the public so they can read and put their input. And they're making regulations based on that. So that's what they're there for. They're there to publish regulations to make you work safely. Ladders, if you Google the word safety fail and you go to Google Images, 80% of the photos are of ladders. Okay, and ladders are the #1 reason why people take shortcuts. In this case, this individual, I believe, is working on some kind of, I don't know if it's a patch or what have you. I would consider this a controlled risk because the individual's holding him up. However, here's the deal. They design special ladders that work on steps. Okay. Notice the guy in the back. He's looking down like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Now, if that individual is deemed, I'm giving you air quotes, a competent person by his employer, he cannot look at that and walk away. A competent person has the responsibility of 2 things. If you guys know the answer, tap them in. #1, his responsibility is to make periodic inspections or assessments of a work site, to look at identified hazards or to possibly find potential hazards. That's #1. The latter part of that responsibility is that he or she has to find ways to eliminate or mitigate the hazard. And if that hazard is IDLH, which means immediately dangerous to life and health, he has to make prompt moves. If that individual is walking away from that scene, bad on him. Bad on him. I don't care if you've been deemed competent by your employer, I'm still making a move. So I want you guys to not, if you're not deemed competent by your employer and you don't hold that responsibility, still do something about it. Say, hey guys, that's unsafe. Let's stop this. You may get some frowns, but you're going to potentially help this guy out because if that ladder just falls down, he's gonna hit the floor hard. Okay, so do something about it. Forklift, the irony in this photo. This is a real one, by the way. This individual, there's 2 individuals on this pallet. The irony about it is that they're putting up a sign that says work safely. Remember, your family is expecting you home. These guys are on a pallet. I've seen this happen so many times. And here's the issue. You cannot go on a pallet. You cannot be carried on a forklift like this. The only time this is acceptable is if you are using a fabricated cage with OSHA compliant rails that the manufacturer has recommended. You cannot fabricate your own that has not been engineered or approved by the manufacturer. That is the only time a forklift can use it as a platform for personnel. This is completely unsafe. And as you already see, the pallet is already at a decline. See that? So this is unsafe. Machine guarding. Okay, here's the problem. You can again argue the fact that there's no lockout, tagout too. I'm only assuming. Never put your hand in a cutter like this or a shredder. This individual is pushing in and shoving in some plastic. Never do that. This is why you have to have a safeguard or a machine guard so that you can block any kind of human movement in there. Okay, this individual hasn't been properly trained or is working in haste and wants to meet a pressing deadline. This is a photoshopped image, but I had to put it in here because it's effective, because Eye and Face is new. Eye and Face protection made the list for the first time this year. Look at this guy. I mean, it's a fabricated image, but it's hilarious. He's using the newspaper ad to cover his face, and he's using safe. This looks like prescribed glasses, and again, prescribed glasses cannot be used as a safety wear unless it's been ANSI approved. There you go. There's so much going on here, and the guy's welding. There's no respiratory protection from the fumes. And that's not, if a spark goes on the paper, it's bam, caught on fire. So much going on here. But the point is proven, right? Okay, folks, so going back to controlled risks, listen, there's a very fine line between taking a risk or taking shortcuts and just being completely dim-witted or stupid. Okay, I say that respectively because we've all done it. What you're doing, and you may get away with it more often than you should, but what you're doing is, if you have an audience, well, if you're a supervisor taking shortcuts, shame on you because you're sending the wrong message. But if you're a journeyman or a worker out there and you're taking shortcuts and someone's seen you do it and you successfully do it, what you're doing is you're indirectly creating a bad safety culture, because now what's going to happen is that colleague who saw you do it the first time is most likely going to take the same shortcut, and he or she may not be as fortunate. So what you're doing is you're sending the wrong message. Now there's creative workers out there. I've seen it. I've seen cranes rig a dozer, and that dozer was properly rigged and was within the lifting capacity, and that dozer was doing a 360 demo. I laughed because it was a controlled risk. Would I do it? Heck no. But it was super efficient. But again, I don't know. If there's a fine line between that, you can get away with it in most cases. But like I said, it takes a split second to change your quality of life. And when that happens, you're going to realize, oh, shoot, why did I make that stupid decision? Now, who's affected? Let's take it to a personal, deep connection here. I'm going to strike some emotional chords here. Who's affected by your injury? Your family? Husband or wife? Is all that worth it? Think about that. Third bullet point. I say this all the time. Safety and improvisation is like oil and water. They do not mix, period. You cannot improvise. Never improvise. I'm telling you guys, don't do it. Don't put people on a forklift without a guardrail. Don't hold on to your colleague's foot while, I don't know, doing something to a sign 30 feet up in the air. You guys are smarter than this. Everything should be predetermined and planned, which takes me to my next segue. Here, okay, write this down, guys. ehsInc has an acronym. We live by it. Okay, I'm giving you 24 karat gold right here. I should be charging you guys for this. P for pace. We always say it when you're out there, pace yourself. What that means is you plan ahead. P in pace means plan ahead. I'm going to tell you right now, if you plan ahead, you're not taking shortcuts. You're not taking risks. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're not. The A in pace is assess work area often. That's very critical, because what happens, you may have a good, effective work plan, but things change throughout the process. I'm telling you that right now. So you may have to kind of change and rework the plan throughout the day. So constantly assess the work area. You're talking about environmental things. Maybe there's a heat wave. Now you have to worry about the heat stress prevention program that you have implemented. Things happen. So always assess and react accordingly for the A in pace. How about C? Communicate. That is big. I go back to the point, you got to communicate the plan to others. If you see someone doing something incorrectly or unsafe, you communicate to them and say, hey, guys, that's unsafe. Don't do it. Stick to the plan. Now, here's a lesson, guys. If you see a scenario where it's IDLH, immediately dangerous to life and health, and you're going to go, oh, crap, let me go find their supervisor. No, do not do that. You take action, because by the time you go search for the supervisor and come back, it might be too late. Now, I say that with a grain of salt, though. Don't put yourself in danger. I.e. confined space. You see some guy unconscious in a vault, what have you, don't go in there, because you're going to fall victim of that same fume as well. So you got to be cautious of that. So your peripherals and everything has to be on point. Got it? But you're talking literally precious seconds at that point. So if you can get away with not going to the supervisor who's been deemed competent person, air quotes again, make action, communicate. Hey guys, stop, don't do that, put it down. You don't have to be directly in the line of fire. You can communicate to them. E, in pace, is execute the plan. That's very important, right? People say, okay, I'm going to work in haste. I can't accommodate the safety program and meet my deadline. There's no way. It's not feasible. You're telling me I got to do this. I got to do all this prep work to get this done. You're telling me I got to do this. That's an argument you're going to see everywhere. And by the way, the people who initiate this argument are the same guys who've been doing it the wrong way for 20 years. And they've been extremely lucky. And what I talked about before, they're creating and they're enabling indirectly sending the wrong message to their peers there. So these guys are giving you complete resistance because they've been doing it for so long. Who are you to tell me what I've been doing it for 20 years this way? So execute the plan. Make sure the plan is executed. Make sure everything's executed. It's important for your supervisor, for your employer, and the company as an overall to make deadlines. So that's all discussed in the plan. The plan is critical. It's an integral part to everything. So here's the full circle moment, guys. So as you plan ahead, assess the work area often, communicate to others, and execute the plan, you do it all while what? Pacing yourself. Okay? It's not worth working in haste. It isn't. I'm telling you guys, it can be done. Got it? All right, you guys are pretty quiet. Hope you guys aren't falling asleep here. But I'm telling you, I should be charging for this stuff. This is 24 karat gold. I'm not lying. All right, guys, recommended mobile safety apps. Here it goes. So a lot of this stuff was, I opened up a dialogue with my colleagues at ehsInc. I said, hey guys, what are the apps that you guys use? So I've involved all my safety matter experts or safety specialists. I've involved my colleagues at work, and they've all given me a list. A list was too long, by the way, so I kind of summarized it. But here it is. And by the way, they're all free, like I said earlier. This is the one that our HAZWOP or safety expert lives on. And he religiously uses this in all of his HAZWOPer courses, his 40-hour, 24-hour, 8-hour courses. And it's called the Wiser app. And I've put the QR code there. So if you scan the QR code, if you're using an Apple device, just point at it with the camera. It'll take you to the URL link. If you're on an Android, you're going to need a QR code app. But scan it. It's going to give you some more information about the app. He swears by it because what happens is it incorporates the NIOSH guide and it incorporates the ERG. So if you are needing instant information about any chemical, I would recommend you download this app, and it's free. The QR code will take you to their landing page, and it has a really good 4-minute video about the app. But it's a good one. It's a good one if you're dealing with any kind of hazardous chemical and how to respond to it and how to be a first responder. Even for the awareness level, I would recommend you downloading this app and just giving it a shot. Another good one for chemicals is this one. This Cameo chemical app is amazing because they've put all the safety data sheet information in this app. So you no longer have to go to find the physical copy of one. You can just go in here. And what's great, it has its built-in search engine. So now you're looking for keywords and finding information about that through the safety data sheet library. So it's a good one. It's pretty much having all safety data sheets in one app. So I would recommend downloading that one for that exact reason. Okay. This one I was hesitant to put in there because it's the ERG is already in the first app, but I downloaded and I played around with it, and it's actually a little more aesthetically appealing. But this one's geared for the ERG exclusively and specifically. So if you want an app that talks about and has all the content information on the emergency guidebook, this is the app to use. It's really good, and it has a built-in search menu as well. Okay. Miller fault clearance. This one I like in particular. It's a fairly new one, but it's authored and designed by a reputable firm in the construction industry. It's called Miller. I'm sure you guys have seen their logo. If you have any harnesses or any fault protection equipment on site, you've probably seen the name brand. And these guys have come up with a really good app. Now, there's one thing where you fall. Another thing is to be rescued. So you guys know there's about 15 minutes time to be rescued. If you're not rescued within 15 minutes and your blood circulation is being cut off, you're most likely going to die. So you have to have an effective fall arrest rescue plan when in the event a colleague falls. It's one thing to prevent it, but what do you do after the fact that you fall or if you've fallen? This app is, you type in the analytics, the data, given the lanyard, all that stuff, and it'll calculate how far you're going to fall down. That way you're not hitting the ground if you were to fall down, right? And it'll also generate an animation to give you how it would look if you were to fall. It's very cool, very innovative, and I love it. So I would recommend you download it for that exact reason. Okay, you guys know the difference between fall protection and fall prevention? Anybody? Fall protection is what? Anything implemented that protects you from a fall, preventative. Fall prevention, I'm sorry. Yeah, fall prevention is what happens, is preventing you from the fall. So you just got to be careful on the vernacular that OSHA uses, things of that nature. So like I said, fall protection is such a hot topic. It is an epidemic. It makes the #1 list every single time. And I would make it a direct line of point for your safety program. Make sure everything's tightened up. Okay. Quick story. Every time we do fall protection classes, no joke, the #1 frequently asked question is, hey, what's the rule on writing my name on a harness? I swear to you, it's the same question over and over again, and I feel like they're using us as their compass for the right answer. Because what happens is that if you use a permanent marker and you write your last name on one of the straps, the argument is, well, the ink will eventually, I guess, break the fiber, and then hence break the integrity of the fiber, and it might, it won't be as effective as how it would be without being deteriorated. So Miller, not Miller, I forget who it was, a private sector company decided to take action and address this to OSHA and say, hey, we've had this question proposed many, many times. What do you guys recommend we do? And OSHA literally had scientists, engineers, grab the most popular Sharpies or markers out in the industry, tested every single one, and found only one to be approved and recognized as the official Sharpie to write down your last name on a harness strap. So there you have it. There is a letter of interpretation. Google it. And I believe it's from Falltech that says, hey, this Sharpie, and I'm assuming Sharpie 1A2 is an approved Sharpie, and it can only be used as the approved ink. This is through testing, no joke. Crazy stuff. All right, let's move on. This is the one that's often overlooked. This OSHA Heat Index Safety Tool app is amazing. If you work in California, heat is an issue. I mean, Arizona, Texas, anywhere pretty much, right? This is an amazing app. I'm going to tell you, this is my favorite one, because what happens, it automatically factors in your area. Once you've enabled locations from your device, it automatically factors in humidity and the temperature outside and gives you a risk factor. It's super cool. It pretty much eliminates you having to go through that old heat index chart that everyone still uses. I think that's old school. This is better. And why this is better? Because now what's happening is you can forecast out. So if you go out through the hourly button on the bottom there, you can forecast out and see how hot it's going to be in 3 hours. So that way you can think, okay, what is my administrative tool here? Well, I can have my employees not work around that hour because it's going to be super hot there, have them do something else. So now you're determining the peak hours so they can work around that. Super cool. I would recommend you download this today. Also has information about how to find the symptoms for heat illnesses. The most popular ones, obviously, heat stroke and heat stroke and heat exhaustion, I believe. But heat stroke is a big one, right? They'll give you how to recognize the symptoms and then also give you first aid recommendations and guidance. Super cool app, free. All right. Ladders. Anything you want to know about ladders? NIOSH has developed, another reputable author. They've developed an app strictly on ladders. Very good app. Has key information on what type of ladder you should use. I don't think wooden ladders are as popular. I think it's all metal, fiberglass, not fiberglass, synthetic fiber. Those are pretty popular. And the ladder industry are I would say they're the most progressive as far as equipment goes. They are making ladders that are for any specific task. It's insane. But yeah, this is a good one to have. It has, like I said, the screen tells you multi-module indicator. So it has a lot of things in it. You download it, anything that you want to do or know about ladders, this is it. True story. So I had a guy that was in my class last week at a conference, and he goes, and I said, "Who uses any kind of decibel sound meter app?" And the guy raises his hand. I said, "What do you use it for?" And he goes, "I was at the gym, and this woman was arguing that was too loud. My sound was too loud. My music was too loud." So he grabbed his phone and opened up this meter app and tested it. And he goes, "Man, it's well within the OSHA requirements." I laughed. I think it was pretty hilarious. But as you guys know, if it's 85 or higher, it's mandated for you to wear hearing protection. Um, but there's a debate on these types of apps. The debate with CSPs or CIHs and other people that use this app is that, yeah, it's great, but how do you calibrate it? So if I'm a private sector firm and I'm contracting a certified industrial hygienist to come out and analyze my area, and he's using a mobile phone, I mean, do I question his credibility? Probably. The alternative is you use a calibrated sound meter that has everything, the nooks and crannies of it. But I've read a study that says that mobile apps are now being recognized by certified safety professionals because now you can calibrate them within the app. I'm still wary of it. I don't know if I'm on board. Like I said, for that hypothetical, that scenario, if I'm using my money to contract a professional, and I'd rather have him or her use a more elaborate mechanism than a social media or than a media app or a mobile app there. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm not fully on board yet, but it does the job if you just need to use it for, I don't know, gyms. I have no idea, but they do the job. Okay, and this one's a light version, by the way. If you really want a sophisticated one, you're going to probably spend about $5-6.